Hey, Bam here, and I love tech, so let's go ahead and talk tech. Specifically, I wanted to cover the topic of expensive technology and how that correlates to, well, let's just go ahead and talk about how expensive tech is real fast. 'Cause specifically, like smartphones and tablets and VR headsets, consumer tech. And I've had this a lot. I've had well, not a lot, but a few times over the recent past that people are complaining about tech being so expensive, and I don't get that. I do not understand that. It's really not that expensive. If it's over your budget, then that's one thing. But saying something that is too expensive is a completely different issue entirely. And here's what I mean by that. It's the idea that, first of all, smartphones and tablets, they're good for about 3 to 5 years, roughly. 5 years pressing it, 3 years, 2-year contracts are the most popular contracts because after that, smartphones do typically wind up getting slower, they wind up wearing out more and everything like that. You can push it to 5 years. I've known of people that have pushed it to 5 years. I personally have not pushed any smartphone to 5 years. I've done good to do like 2 to 3 years max. But if you have a problem with being able to afford smartphones, then that's one thing. But you can't sit there and say that, oh, well, $300 is too expensive, $500 is too expensive. First of all, that's based completely on how much you're able to afford. And second of all, that also is based on how much money you think that a device is worth versus what the actual price tag is, what all the manufacturers have put into them. Because you got to keep in mind you got to keep in mind how capable smartphones are. They're one of our main sources for entertainment. For a lot of us, they are for like music and videos and gaming and all these other video chats and stuff like that. They're a main source for entertainment. They are a tool for a lot of people that use them for businesses, for communication. People that travel use GPS obviously all the time. They are a primary source of communication in multiple different platforms. So whenever you say that a smartphone is too expensive, even a budget smartphone is really cheap compared to what they're putting into it. Now, you can also, I've had the argument before that there's really nothing to invest in. And financially, yeah, you are correct. There is no financial value to smartphones after, a few years. Yeah, that is correct. There's not supposed to be. It's one of those items that you wind up spending a few $100 on a few years, over the course of a few years, because even if you get a budget smartphone, it's going to last you maybe a year or more, It's not something that is supposed to be financial. It's not supposed to be something that is supposed to be a financial investment. What would be financial investment is something like a gaming computer. That is a financial investment because you can get your money back from that. Something that is an investment is a car, a house, stuff like that, because they are thousands and thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, several thousands of dollars. Those things are investments. Smartphones are not. They're only a few $100. And some are even cheaper than that. So, yeah, you're right about that, about consumer tech, smartphones and tablets, and other wearable tech not being a financial investment. They're not supposed to be. So, because of the fact they are actually very cheap. And if you're not able to afford it, then that's one thing. But saying that they're expensive, that doesn't make any sense. Unless, of course, if the processor and everything, if the smartphone is really a budget smartphone with a flagship smartphone price tag, then that's one thing. I bet most people would agree with that. It still doesn't make it any more or less of a fact. It still is just a matter of an opinion. You yourself as the consumer are able to afford. So I'm not really sure where everyone's coming with that. And something else, and so the next thing I wanted to talk about was how people complain about technology moving so fast. Like, the next big thing, planned obsolescence and everything like that. How manufacturers and companies and brand names, they're already coming out with, by the time they've got the one thing out on the shelf that's, the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, that they're already planning on the Galaxy Note 8. Yes, they are. They are moving fast. They have to. If they don't move fast, the hackers do. People that have more negative goals, more insidious agendas. If the manufacturers aren't moving as fast as what they are, nobody knows for sure how close the hackers and people that really mean to steal from us and harm us in different ways, whether it be financial information or to stalk someone because of how capable our smartphones are. Someone could potentially ping into your smartphone for the GPS coordinates of where you are. So if manufacturers aren't coming out with this technology as often as what they are, then that leaves the door open for hackers and attackers. So yes, you are correct. Technology is moving at a very fast pace. Would you prefer that you pay, a few $100 a year to someone that, so far has had, for the most part, our best interests in mind and what we actually want as a consumer? Do we want to pay them, or do we want them to wait so that way we can get caught up financially, or, have the chance to enjoy it? Smartphones really aren't changing much right now. You got a few that tried a few things that were slightly different from what the majority of smartphones were going for. The LG G5, it went on a more modular path, and it flopped. They experimented with it. It more or less flopped. It sold it just didn't do that well. So to say that technology is changing a lot, it's really not changing. It's just getting faster and faster, and in a lot of cases better and better. So to say and complain about how fast technology is moving and that it's just planned obsolescence and everything like that, again, you're right, but you're complaining about this versus the alternative is that people with more insidious agendas is to getting people's personal information from smartphones or from databases and whatnot. They get a hold of all that stuff and actually do some damage. So that's kind of like complaining about that's kind of like how my grandma was complaining about how she didn't want to have to spend the money to install a handlebar system that would allow her to more easily get in and out of the bathtub. Well, would you prefer to spend a few $100s to get in and out of the bathtub more safely, more easily, and more accessibly? Or would you rather spend a few $1,000s or more because of the fact that you didn't have that installed and you wind up having to go to the hospital because you wind up slipping and falling? It's the same thing. Would you rather spend a few $1,000s to try to find someone that hacked into your smartphone and wound up getting access to your Apple Pay or your Android Pay or anything, wind up locking you out of your social media accounts because the fact that you didn't have a fingerprint scanner, or you didn't lock up your smartphone whenever you left it alone for, a moment or something? Or would you prefer to have all these advancements come to you as soon as possible for your own security purposes? Now, I know that another topic on another branch of the same subject is the idea that these big manufacturers are just stealing from you and you're giving them the key to everything, so they have the potential to wipe it all away and everything like that. Well, yes, true, but if anything, the history has taught us so far is that they won't, because I think it's because of the fact that they know that they carry so much sensitive information that if they were to all of a sudden start messing with customers in huge ways, not like, something stupid as to where, we accidentally deleted a picture of you and your kids, but something that was serious. And if they really screwed with people like that in a way that some people are so paranoid about, then then the rest of the customers would more likely than not up and leave. So to complain about, I guess in conclusion, to complain about consumer tech moving so fast and being so expensive and all of this complaining about how it's just a money pit. First of all, make sure that make sure that you know what you're talking. Make sure that you know the words that you're saying, because because you being able to afford something or not is different from something actually being too expensive. And yeah, technology is moving fast. Nobody really knows how fast the hackers are moving. So that's not really a valid argument. It's either that the manufacturers move fast or the hackers move fast. Take your pick. So anyway, that's what I wanted to cover, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.